Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me welcome you to the Burke County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Tuesday, November 16th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Thank you for being here. I'll ask you at this time to check your mobile devices. If you've got anything that's going to ring or make a noise, please take care of that at this time and silence those for us. I will note that all commissioners are present, along with the manager, Deputy County Manager, Finance Attorney, and we appreciate Lance sitting in tonight for Kay doing our clerk work. I'll remind you, if you are coming to speak tonight, please come to the podium. Be sure the microphone is turned on when you get ready to speak so that we can hear you and get a good recording of our meeting tonight. Delighted to have with us Reverend Dr. Wayne Johnson tonight, Senior with the Shiloh AME Church, and Brother Johnson's going to give our invocation in just a few moments, and then that'll be followed by our Pledge of Allegiance, and our County Attorney J.R. Simpson will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand with us, and Pastor, come lead us in our invocation.
Let us pray. God of grace and God of glory, on thy people pour thy power. Grant us wisdom and grant us courage for the facing of this hour. Our God, in this room, in the center on the floor reads, "In God we trust." And so before we share our Thanksgiving meal next Thursday, we want to thank you for being a wonderful God, a gracious God. In the midst of our pandemic, those in this room may have had persons who have suffered loss of life because of the pandemic, but in God we trust. We pray that this Thanksgiving may be better than last year's celebration. We are praying for the world in which we live. We are praying for these United States. We pray specifically for the state of North Carolina, the county of Burke. We pray that you would bless its citizenry. We ask that in this room, amongst this august body, that your will be done. Bless these gentlemen, and we pray that in the language of the book of Amos, that justice will roll down like water and righteousness as a mighty stream. So God, we thank you. Grant us wisdom, grant us courage for the facing of these days and this hour, in the days ahead. And together we say, amen. United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This brings us to item 4 tonight on our agenda, approval of agenda. Gentlemen, you've had this several days now. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Wayne. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Mr. Chairman, I did have a question on that, well, you've already voted for it.
All right, thank you.
Did y'all get my email about item 10?
I did not, sir.
Pardon?
I did not.
Did you get it? I sent it to each one of you. It's approval, item number 10 is under finance. It's approval of a purchase policy. And there was a couple items in there. And Brian, I didn't come in time to respond to your reply to that. But you said there were examples. But the thing you voted on has commissioners and the manager of 2008 in it. And I don't think we want to pass that unless that is updated and clarified.
I believe those were background documents for you to see, so you know what it was and currently is, and then we're trying to go to the policy procedures for purchase that Margaret has developed and has before you.
But that's a policy. And that policy has, if I was one of your managers and following your policy, it would be directed to the wrong person. And it needs to be updated to the present staff.
Margaret, the purchasing procedures that you have are up to date and new and for current staff. And what we have in there were some documents that were to show and highlight how it used to be in the policy that was adopted in 1999. That, again, was just some background information.
Do you concur with that, Margaret? Is that?
Yes, the original policy, the previous policy was included for reference, and I think what you're seeing is the items in that original policy, not in the updated policy.
Lance, can you pull up page 396?
Commissioner Taylor, Margaret is correct.
Excuse me, you can't, I'm out of order.
I'm gonna go ahead and call for approval of the agenda. Those in favor of approving the agenda, signify by the uplift of the hand. Those opposed? That's 4-1. Thank you. All right, this brings us to item 5, approval of meeting minutes. We have tonight meeting minutes from September 7, 2021 pre-agenda meeting, September 21, 2021 regular meeting, October 5th, 2021 recessed meeting. I'll entertain a motion to accept these minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed them, did not find any errors or mistakes, and I make the motion that, and I'm assuming you want to approve all three of them at once,
Yes, sir.
that you approve minutes of September 7th, September 21st, and October 21st.
It's October 5th, 2021. All right, thank you, Maynard. Those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0. Thank you. This brings us to item 6, presentations tonight. First item for presentations comes from Western Piedmont Community College, presentation of economic value of Western Piedmont Community College. That's going to be presented tonight by our president, Dr. Joel Welch. Dr. Welch, thank you for being here. Good evening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, commissioners. Appreciate an opportunity to come before you and a chance to talk about what we have going on, our economic value at Western Piedmont Community College, and just appreciate your support. I know personally, my family and I moved to the area 16 months ago now, and have really enjoyed getting involved and contributing to the economic value of the community through spending money and being part and seeing all the activities that we have, and seeing the impact that Western Piedmont Community College itself has in our community. And I'm happy to give you a brief update on our strategic plan and how that feeds into our economic value. Our vision at Western Piedmont Community College is that we'll be a transformational community leader that empowers all individuals to achieve success. We don't want to leave anybody behind. We want to see our county advance and see each person in our county be a contributor, and that's where we bring value. And so our strategic plan is based around 4 areas that feed into this value, and the first one is equitable access and success. And so when you look at that, we have student-centered facilities that our county supports. We have a strong partnership with Burke County Public Schools. that provide opportunities. We have dual enrollment programs and things that are coming through. And so as you look at the value that we have presented here in the overhead, all of that's running through and is successful when we provide access and success for all people in our community. Learning outcomes is the second area that we focus on. And that's where we're really looking to support careers and economic development. We want our industries and businesses to have the best workforce in the area, in the country, in the world, so that our companies grow and people have opportunities. We're building just this week an announcement around apprenticeships that will allow companies to partner with the college and develop people working through our high school system to go to work. It's an excellent way to go to school, be able to do it without student loans, have a great job. Feeds right into the next part that we really are supporting. It doesn't do us any good to just get people in. We have to have them complete and transfer. We have a lot of students who come to us and then go to a university. I spoke just this week at Drone High School. One of the things I talked about on return on investment with our dual enrollment program in Western Piedmont Community College, students who start with us can save anywhere from $40,000 to $150,000, depending on whether they're going in-state or out-of-state to universities. That's money that is saved for our families and in our community. So we're really looking at how we remove barriers that prevent students from being able to move through. And then it doesn't do us any good to get them in, get them complete. What we're really all about is that they get jobs that have livable wages. That is where we want to turn it out. We want to turn out folks that have the resources to contribute to our community. So we really are looking, if you look at that fourth area about high rates of employment, we want to see our students get jobs and that they have livable wages, high wages, that they have a career path that they're able to move through. So when you look at that strategic plan that I'm hitting really fast there, you've got that before you. But our success builds on that value, an important value in our community. So when you look at our community impact, one of the things you see there, when we do our job right, and we are, 1 in 15 jobs in Burke County is supported directly by the activities of the college. Folks coming through. That's a pretty significant impact when you look at developing of our community. Western Piedmont Community College is integral to the success of our county. We are transformative in our community. And we don't want to just sit there with that. We want to grow. We want to see that get bigger. That's why we're working our strategic plan. Our alumni add in value over $100 million. Just a few weeks ago, the Atlanta Braves won the World Series. If you're not an Atlanta Braves fan, I've been my whole life, so to actually see them win something was kind of heartwarming. But that $100 million for our college alumni is the equivalent of basically hosting a World Series in Burke County. That's what the impact that we have as a college. And then an investment in Western Piedmont Community College is a good investment. So if you look there, what you're going to see is that students who spend $1 with us get more than $5 back in return. That's a pretty good investment. Our taxpayers get $1.40 back for every dollar that's invested with us, and society gets $6.40 back for every dollar invested. And what you're looking at there for our students, it's about wages. That looks at how much they make. So if you get an associate degree, you're going to make, on average, almost $7,500 more than a student who just has a high school diploma. We are going to help you advance your career, as that's where that comes from. For taxpayers, it's about the contribution that our graduates, our alumni, our people make back into our community. It's a positive return. And for society, we know that students who get an education are less likely to go to prison. They're more likely to be healthy. They're more likely to be able to contribute. And that's where that calculation comes from. Western Piedmont Community College makes a significant difference. We are the best path to the middle class around. Associate degree students earn more, and our strategic plan builds on this economic impact and supports Burke County for advancing into the future. It is critical that we keep Western Piedmont Community College at the top of our game with our facilities, with our technology, and with our personnel. And our county commissioners, our support that we get is absolutely critical to being able to do that. Our new Skilled Trade Solution Center is another investment that we're making that will give students opportunities and fill a need in our community for construction trades, something that we run into everywhere I go and talk to folks. Our heavy equipment operator simulators, many of you saw that. We're able to take that out and train heavy equipment operators. Again, a great career, good paying jobs that people can get. And then we continue to hire great people and bring in folks that are going to contribute to our community. So I appreciate you giving me just a few minutes tonight, moving fast to be able to give you just a little bit of an update on a strategic plan, and wanted you to see the impact that your support and that the citizens of Burke County provide to us brings back to our community. So together, we will make a difference, and we will grow Burke County and provide opportunities for our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Welch. Any questions for Dr. Welch tonight? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept this report as presented.
So moved.
Thank you. Those in favor signify by uplifting hand. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Welch. Item number 2 comes from the Tourism Development Authority, financial update for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2021, and the period ending September 30, 2021. This will be presented tonight by Ed Phillips, our director. Ed?
Good evening. Thank you for being here and allowing me to be here tonight. So tourism's up and running strong in Burke County. I want to go over the end of the fiscal year, which ended June 30th of this year, 2021. You know, we started our fiscal year a year ago in July 1 of 2020, not knowing what COVID was going to do to our economy, what it was going to do to tourism. And we cut our budget significantly to try to save money, to try to stay afloat, not really understanding where we were going to head. But things picked up, and in the fall, we had great revenue in the fall in our occupancy tax from vacation rentals. Accommodations started coming back at our hotels, and we ended up in the spring of this year having really strong months. And out of a first budget that we had was $500,000. We almost made our budget for the year before, $598,000 in revenue, and we finished strong with $125,554 net change in our bank, in our fund balance. So for the year, we did really well. Going into the first quarter of this year, July through September, I want to first of all reiterate that our occupancy tax collections and the way it's reported is 2 months behind. So when our accommodations collect money in July, they remit it in August to the county by August 20th, and then it actually comes to the TDA the next month in September. So when you look at the budget to actual July for September, we have a $600,000 budget for the whole year, for this fiscal year, but the number 87,356, that was only for July, and that was a new 1 month record for occupancy tax collected in Burke County in a single month. That's net to the TDA. It was a little more than that. The county keeps 3% for managing the funds. So July this year really kicked it off strong. We're still going strong. I want to tell you that as of today, the occupancy tax that's been collected through July, August, and September is $235,918. That's also a new quarterly record for the TDA. At that rate, we're going to exceed our budget of $600,000 for the fiscal year that we're in right now. And we have a lot of positive things going on. The School of Science and Math getting up and running. We have businesses back up and running. Technical folks coming into the county, upfitting manufacturing. Leisure travel is strong. People are back. Corporate meetings are coming back strong. That's not a huge part of our business here, but it is a part of our business. Youth sports this past summer was very strong. So we're back into kind of a normal mode of tourism here in Burke County. It affects all of us, all of our taxes. The tourist pay helps reduce the load on us as residents here and all the residents of Burke County. Also today, I want to take 1 second and make a special announcement since we're on television and everybody can see it at home, and we got a lot of things going on. We had a TDA board meeting today. Commissioner Mulvey is chair of that. And we're working on, and I've already selected a date, Saturday, May the 14th, this coming spring, we're going to have a 30th anniversary celebration of the movie Last of the Mohicans. That movie was filmed significantly in Burke County. There was about 1,000 people that were extras and worked on the crews and built the fort. And we're planning actually a 3-day celebration, May 12th, 13th, and 14th, to celebrate the 30th anniversary of that film. You'll hear a lot more about it coming up, but we've already got entertainment, we're working on vendors, and it's going to be a really exciting time in Burke County. And it's all about bringing positive attention to our great outdoors here. That's why they selected Burke County to shoot the film here, and, excuse me, and we think it's going to be a really fun thing. So.
All right, thank you, Ed. Gentlemen, any questions for Ed on his report tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I asked all my questions, I thought, at pre-agenda, but I do have one question, and it's on page 57 that I'll refer to. And it talks about a fund balance, and that the tourism does not have a fund balance. And my question is, the way it was worded, should we have a policy covering the fund balance?
I'm not sure exactly what your question is as far as a fund balance, but we carry a fund balance, and we're required by state law to carry so much money in that fund balance based on our overall revenues every year. We don't have a firm policy on like how much money to keep in arrears or keep that we would have as a quote savings account. But when we came through COVID, we learned a tough lesson, and that is we had enough money to survive. We got some PPP funds. We used some grant money from the state, and we were in a lot better financial position than a lot of TDAs. We don't have a specific policy, but we do follow state guidelines.
Yeah, well, the sentence, I finally found it on my computer. It's a short sentence. It says the authority does not have a formal fund balance policy in place.
Correct.
So the way I read that was, should we have one, and what benefit would it be, et cetera, to have that fund balance? So you're saying no from your answer?
We do not have a formal policy other than the state guidelines that govern the authority as a tourism development authority.
Do you know if other authorities have a fund balance clause in their?
I'd have to check that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
So I think if I understand your answer, Ed, you do have a fund balance policy. It's basically what the state
Correct.
directs you to have. It's
Correct.
not separate.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept this report as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. It's 5-0. Thank you, Ed. This brings us to item number 3, comes from Finance, presentation of fiscal year 2021 audit. We'll recognize Margaret and our auditors, Loudermilk Church and Company. Bill and Rick, you guys come on up. Good evening.
Can you hear me now? All right. Well, Chairman and Commissioners, good to be with you again this evening. We did complete the June 30th, 2021 audit, and it went very well. You have an excellent finance director. She does a great job, Miss Pierce. So we appreciate all of her help in getting through this. Couple of quick comments, and then we'll go over highlights like we usually do, because we have this report. You have a good-looking report. Ms. Pierce put together a great-looking report. 120 pages, that would take us all night to go through that. So we go through these summary highlights as we usually do. Couple of quick comments, though. We did give you an unmodified, clean opinion. Of course, that's what you want, and that's what the local government commission wants to see. The other comment I have is we did what you call an A133 audit. Because of the level of your funding, you have to have, it's a lot more compliance work that has to be done when you have an A133 on both federal and state major funds. Those were also unmodified. No issues, nothing to report as far as findings, so that went very well. We have sent the report to the local government commission. They no longer respond to you whether it's accepted or not. We just have to assume that it is somewhere along the line. So, but you did have a good year. You'll see as Rick goes over the numbers, he actually is the one that did the audit. You had a very good year. So I'll let Rick go over the numbers as we go through it. If you have a question, stop us. We'll try to answer it. If we can't answer it, then we may have to get Ms. Pierce to help us. But Rick?
Yeah, these are the financial audit highlights for June 30, 2021. And again, there's comparisons so you can see from one year to the next the changes. The top portion is your general fund or your main operating funds. You had cash and investments of just over $37 million at June 30. And your total assets in the general fund was $43,415,198. Your unassigned fund balance at the end of June was $28,379,793. You had took in total revenues of about $86.7 million, and you had total expenses for the year of $83,584,000. You also had some transfers in from some of your other funds, like the sales tax funds and such. Those totaled just over $6.3 million. So you increased your fund balance in the general fund about $9.4 million for the year ending of 6/30/21. A couple of other numbers, ad valorem taxes, which was included in the revenues. You collected $51,217,161, and that was 98.75% of your current year tax levy. And then the last number under that section is just showing your investment income. Of course, the rates went down this year, so you didn't get as much investment income as the prior year. It was $123,774. The next section is your proprietary funds. This is your water and sewer and your waste disposal funds. Cash and investments there was just over $2 million at the end of June. And then you had total assets of $22,309,347, and that includes, in this particular fund, it includes your fixed assets net of depreciation. So your net position or your equity for your proprietary funds at the end of June was $14,261,000. You took in just under $6.9 million in operating revenues, and your operating expense was $8,478,000. And then again, you had some non-operating revenues, some capital contributions and transfers and such. That totaled $846,583. And then, so your change in your net position for the year was a decrease of just over $1 million in those two funds. A couple other items on that. Your accounts receivable at the end of June was $493,529. And then also this funds, you had about $6,100 in investment income. The last section on this page is your other governmental funds. This includes the ARP money you received, all your sales tax funds, 911, fire district funds, things of that nature. Cash and investments in those funds was $30,571,000. And then you had a little bit of money with a fiscal agent from some debt or from some borrowings for a project. Total assets in all those funds combined was about $35.6 million, and the fund balance in those funds was $26,224,922. Revenues was just over $22 million in those funds, and expenditures was about $15 million. And then, under other financing sources, this is where some of that money was transferred out to the general fund. It was about 4.2 million. So in those particular funds, you increased your fund balance by $2,714,262. The second page, this highlights is your fund balance available for the general fund. Again, you can see a comparison for the 2 years. Your unassigned fund balance that I mentioned earlier at the end of June was $28,379,793. And your expenditures and transfers out for your general fund was just about $86.2 million. So that gives you a fund balance percentage for unassigned fund balance of 32.92%. And then the last number there is just gives you an idea of your peer group. For counties of your size, the average is 38.79%. Also, I'll mention as Phil said, we submit the report to LGC. They don't really respond like they used to, but there is a worksheet that was required to be done that showed performance indicators, and we're supposed to let you know about any kind of problems with the performance indicators. The only one that popped up that was a operating loss in your water and sewer fund, and I think Margaret's going to address that at a later time, but you have to actually do an address to the LGC and submit it just saying how you're going to try to fix that problem. So I think she's going to talk about that later. I didn't know if there were any particular questions about the report that anyone had.
Any questions at this time on the audit report?
I got a couple of general questions in reviewing this. Studying these figures, it can get your eyes crossed in a hurry, if you know what I mean, if you can get out of line. But anyhow, one of the questions in your letter that I wanted to, you stated in the letter that a request for certain representatives from management, what were they and what?
You're talking about the representation letter from management?
Yes.
They just, it's something that will request management to provide to us that would disclose everything we need to know about the finances that would affect, what we do. That's what it's all about.
Okay.
And it has, I can't remember everything. You remember some of the questions it just asked? Have you
Well,
told us all the liabilities? Have you?
Right. Have you provided us the minutes to the board meetings? Have you, are you aware of any fraud activities? Or, just things like that. Do you have any, are you going to borrow a lot of money, borrow more money? Are you going to sell off assets that we need to know about, like a major part of your assets? Any kind of plans to do that? It's about 43 items on this list, and Margaret and usually signs that at the end of the audit.
Basically getting management to think about is there anything they need to tell us regarding this audit that would change our decision on what we've done or what we've said.
So in layman's terms, could we say something like additional information to better understand that area of the audit?
I guess you could look at it like that, yeah.
All right, good.
And that's done on every audit, not just here. It's a requirement to have in our audit procedures is a client representation letter.
But your letter states that you got everything you needed and.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and you had no problems with the audit, so, and I just wanted to make sure of that. I also wanted to bring up that one of the comments you said in it was that a big part of our overage was from sales tax. We sold more goods or whatever, but the sales tax that the county gets is only 2 cents, and the school board gets 1.5 of that. And I was just wondering how 0.5% would be enough to make up $9 million more general fund balance. And is that yet to be decided how that'll be placed, or
That
what?
type thing too.
I mean, it doesn't, that's not the whole reason for the increase, of course. I think a lot of that comment had to do, and again, I don't, are you talking about what was in the MD&A in the beginning of the report? Is that where you saw that comment?
Yes.
That, yeah, I mean, that's management's discussion. That's something that Margaret puts together. It's sort of like just an overview of the financials. But, I mean, I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that the state originally told everybody to cut their budgets because sales tax was going to be down. And I think it ended up that sales tax wasn't down. It actually went up over the prior year. So that was a good thing for the county and for everybody that, you know, that the sales tax went up.
Well, the reason that the general fund went up so much, et cetera, and it appears several times, and we got 6 or 8 different figures on the general fund and the balance that is. And so, and that really is why I wanted a little better understanding of that, and that you also understand that most of that sales tax that comes into Burke County, it does belong to the education. The board did that before I ever came on board. And I have stated several times, I feel like that was a good deal for our schools because they get, I think this year is around $9 million for both those funds, Brian. That's okay. The point of it, that we dedicated that for constructions of schools, and it has worked wonderfully because the schools has kept up with our neighboring counties, and we didn't have to go up on our tax rate in order for the school system to build the new schools. So, but it's important, I think, to me, that we understand that the county would be enjoying some of those funds had we not given it all to the school boards, which could also help the county. I think that item 7, I believe it was, but on figure 3 indicates we spent less on education, about 1.8 million. We spent 5 million more on human services. Total expenses were 5 million more than in 2020. If you take it's $1,116,980 from the fund balance. Operating expenses were 8.3 less. DSS below budget at 1.5 million. Sheriff's office under budget 1.6 million. This is a grand total of 11.4 million under budget, according to your figures. Less than 1.1 million out of fund balance that we spent still gives us $10 million. Now, I know I'm adding across the scale here, and some things don't apply. And I also know that a lot of that money, because it wasn't spent, doesn't come into the kitty, so to speak. So we don't have that huge amount of money that's a surplus that we could use if we did going into the next year to spend money that you might already have in the budget. And I thought that is probably the first time in history that I know that, being a county commissioner, that our net spending was 10 million plus a few thousand under budget. So, and the reason we don't get to spend it a second time is because, especially in some of the programs, the money's not tendered until it is spent. So if it's not spent, it really doesn't come into your budget. But then that affects your budget at the same token, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you had an increase in fund balance, but it was happening, I believe, all across the state. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
You're not the only one that had a significant increase because of the economy and other things. It's pretty much all the counties and cities and towns had that increase.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, for right now, that's all.
Other questions, comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept our audit report.
Shall they be? I agree. Accept it. Thank you.
All right, those in favor signify by uplifted hand. Those opposed? You was 4, right, Maynard?
Yes.
5-0. Thank you very much, gentlemen. This brings us to item number 7, scheduled public hearings tonight. The first item on public hearing agenda is the BDI Building Reuse Grant for Project Umbrella and public hearing. And tonight we'll hear that report from Hope Hopkins. Good evening, Hope.
Good evening. Thank you. On behalf of Burke Development, we are requesting the county's support for Project Umbrella. This is a local company that has been established in the community for over 30 years. They are, the City of Morganton is actually making the grant application on behalf of Project Umbrella. This was done at their November 1st meeting and was adopted. The grant request is $240,000, which will support building improvements to expand the capacity of their manufacturing process. They will be creating 30 new jobs, which will pay at or above the county average wage. And they would also be carrying a percentage of the employees' health insurance. There is a 5% match, which would be $12,000, and that would be $6,000 each for the City of Morganton and then Burke County. We expect an award announcement on the December 9th committee meeting of the Rural Infrastructure Authority. And I'm glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Hope. Gentlemen, any questions to Hope on this matter before I open the public hearing? Hearing none, at this time I will open the public hearing. Do we have any comments tonight on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I had a conversation with a woman this morning, Susan Butterworth. I'm not sure if she's here.
Okay. Anyone to speak to this item? Hearing none, at this time I'll close the public hearing. And gentlemen, entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the general fund balance appropriation of up to $6,000 for an economic development incentive for Project Umbrella for the county's portion of the local grant match, pending notification of a building reuse grant award.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. It's 5-0. Thank you very much. This brings us to, thank you, Hope, item number 2, Community Development Zoning Map Amendment ZMA 2021-11 and public hearing. This will be presented by Alan Glines, our planning director. Evening, Alan.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Britton, commissioners, and members of the public. Property owner Olivia Bird is asking your approval to rezone a 32.23 acre portion of a larger tract, which is the closest address at 1979 Jamestown Road. The request being to change the zoning from industrial to residential 3, R3. The subject property is, oops, I think I'm sorry about that. Subject property is the large tract here. It's just a few parcels in from Jamestown Road. This is the larger tract. This southern part here is zoned industrial, and the request is to change that to R3, which is just like what the other portion of that tract would be. As I said, it's, that northern part is already zoned R3, and with this tract of land that we're pointing out here and these other tracts, the owner has a total of 61.5 acres, and so they'd like it all to be kind of consistently zoned. Currently, it's all vacant. I have a few maps here I'll share with you. This is a land use map, and the staff have kind of analyzed the uses on this property. Of course, this is our tract here, completely vacant, and then surrounding it are a variety of residential uses for the most part, include single-family homes, double-wide manufactured homes, and single-wide manufactured homes, all in this area. To the south here, this is the, get my name right here, Silver Creek Estates and Golf Club. It's the border on the south side. So the intent then with a change like this would be to rezone, to actually use this in a residential fashion going forward. This next map shows that the parcel has been logged near the top. We kind of point that out. In this area here, it's all been logged, but this is pretty much in a natural state, wooded for that portion. This map is showing future land use. This is the Blueprint Burke plan, and it's showing that there is the expectation to have secondary growth focused on a residential use in that area. Finally, we're back to the actual zoning. Oops, let's go back. Sorry about that. A variety of residential zones here. This is R2 for this neighborhood. Silver Creek is R1 to the west side here. To the north, there are some tracts, though, that are zoned industrial here. And these are, most have access and frontage along Jamestown Road in this area. This is a rather large tract, about 45 acres. This parcel is used in a manufacturing fashion. It's a frame, Somerset Studios framing. This site here is Turning Point Services, which is a home health care business. And then this site here is also used in a non-residential fashion. It's a little hard to see in that map, but that's the Brentwood Water Corporation. So while this is a large tract and that industrial portion is at the rear side today here, it's not directly adjacent to Jamestown Road, and therefore would be difficult to use in an industrial fashion, because basically you'd have all your access coming through a residential portion either today or in the future. So that would make it less attractive to be developed. In fact, this portion of the land is about 2,000 feet from Jamestown Road, so you really got a lot of territory to traverse to get down to that. After reviewing the request, the staff feels that the site is most suitable for residential use due to that limited access and also because of that residential character within that neighborhood. The planning board did review this request, as they do with all map amendment requests, on September 23rd, and they concurred with a 4-0 vote to recommend to you all an approval of the change. And I can answer any questions if you have any for me.
All right, thank you, Alan. Gentlemen, any questions for Alan on this matter before I open the public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I thought I'd asked all my questions at pre-agenda, but I did want us to think just a little bit, and it's, I think I brought this up at pre-agenda, that we have allowed some of this zoning, and after a few years, the houses can't get along with the single wides, and the double wides can't get along with the single wides. And I think the question here is, you know, is this really what we want, and is this really what is the best use of that piece of property? And your summarizations, you recommend that, and the county staff recommends it, but value of land tends, and I use that word strongly, to go down when you mix that kind of housing.
Are you saying the different types of housing together?
Yes.
Well, I think it's definitely, it's a residential area, and there is a variety of housing types in that area. It doesn't seem to be hurting the property sales. In fact, I was just noticing that one of the homes on Plantation Drive, of course, it's, right on the golf course, sold for over $600,000 just last month. Now, I know they're kind of in their own little area, but they're within shouting distance across the tree line, to the neighbors. It didn't seem to affect that. I think each neighborhood is slightly different. Each one can have a slightly different focus, whether it's stick built or double wides or even single wide type uses. There's a need for all that in the community here. So I think the idea is with R3, it could be single family stick built homes, but it's really developer choice, isn't it? So we're providing some flexibility through R3 to kind of let the developer come in with the program that they think will be the best fit and would sell and be successful here.
I have no problem with the request to rezone it, but I think that the market is wide open for a lot of people for that kind of property. But it also can, down the road, create problems. And just wanted us to make sure we're aware of what we're doing. I can put a mobile home next to a $200,000 house if we both bought property there, correct? So,
Yeah, if the developer left it wide open for the underlying uses, yeah, you could have a mixed neighborhood. In some areas over there are. In this area with the loop road there is some mix of different housing types. It seems to get along well. I drove through there to kind of have a good look, and it looked like a really nice neighborhood. So,
okay, you answered my questions. Thank you.
Other questions for Al? Hearing none, at this time I'll open the public hearing. Do we have anyone here tonight to speak to this matter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would call upon Warren Dumford.
Good evening. If you will, state your name, please, and address.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. My name is Warren Dumford. My address is 104 Cliffwood Circle, Mooresville, North Carolina. I'm a licensed North Carolina real estate broker. The subject property that you guys are considering for rezoning is under contract to my clients, as is the adjoining 5.5 acre parcel that joins Jamestown Road and provides access to this property. We requested that Ms. Bird and her family apply for rezoning because my client's intention is to build their primary residence on the property. In order to obtain financing to secure that, it needed to be zoned residential. And I'm just here to clarify and answer any questions if there are any regarding their future plans.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else to speak tonight for this matter? All right, seeing here none, I'll close the public hearing at this time and entertain a motion on this matter.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve ordinance number 2021-20, amending the Burke County zoning map as it relates to ZMA 2021-11 for a 32.25 acre portion of property, read number 29023, located near Jamestown Road from industrial zone IND to R3, residential zone R3, and find that the request is consistent with the blueprint Burke plan, which shows the area as residential expansion, and further find that the request is reasonable and in the public interest in that the site is best suited for residential use based on access, utilities, and existing surrounded uses, and because the rezoning will facilitate the expansion of residential development, which is in short supply in the county. Consistency statement, the commissioners find that the ordinance number 2021-20 related to the application ZMA 2021-11 for the 32.25 acre tract from the industrial district to the R3 district is consistent with the blueprint Burke plan, which shows the area as a residential expansion for this and surrounding areas.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. You've heard the motion, gentlemen. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. That's 5-0. Thank you very much. All right. This brings us to item number 8 on our agenda tonight, informal public comments. At this time, I'll open the floor for those. And Lance, I'll hear from you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We have several speakers signed up for informal public comments. First, I would call upon John Flood.
My name is John Flood. I live at 2411 Mountain Laurel Trail, Morganton. And a couple of days ago, maybe even more than that, I was fretting about what I was going to say to you, that I could convince you to decide to move the Confederate monument. And I came to the conclusion that that's not my responsibility at all. It's your responsibility to make up your minds. And my hope is to influence your thinking. It's a complex issue, and I hope you know that it is a complex issue. It would be simpler if all of the people who wanted to keep the monument there were racists and bigots, which they're not. And it would be simpler if all the people who wanted it to be moved were carpetbaggers and people who have no sense of Southern heritage, which we don't. I love this country. I love the fact that our country was founded on ideals. Our Declaration of Independence says that all men are created equal. They have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Lincoln told us that our country was brought forth on this continent with a commitment to human with equal values and everyone being with equal people and government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The Pledge of Allegiance that you said tonight says that we are one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have high standards that were given to us by the founders of this country. So one of the questions that happens for me is, how does having a monument that memorializes and honors a cause that was dedicated to keeping people enslaved square with our values, with what we have said we hold dear? And if we aren't willing to look at what we're doing now in the light of the commitments that this country has made, then they are hollow and they have no meaning. This country, in the 1860s, there were, 4 of the first 5 presidents of the United States owned slaves. Doesn't mean they were bad people. Doesn't mean that we don't honor them. It simply means they weren't perfect and they lived in the context of their times. There were 400,000 slaves in Virginia and in Mississippi in 1860. In 1860, there were more enslaved people in South Carolina than there were free people. Slavery was the foundation and the bedrock of the southern states' socioeconomic politics. Slavery would have created the divisions in this country in the 1820s were it not for the Missouri Compromise. The southern states were going to secede unless they got a lot of what they needed, and they didn't. So if you don't believe that the Confederacy was about slavery, I'll read you a couple of quotes from their Articles of Secession. This is from Mississippi. Our position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest in the world. Its labor supplies a product which constitutes by far the largest, most important portion of commerce on earth. These products have become necessities of the world, and a blow to slavery is a blow to commerce. Texas, the servitude of the African race as existing in the states is mutually beneficial to both bond and free, and is abundantly authorized and justified by the experience of mankind and the revealed will of the Almighty Creator and recognized by all Christians. Georgia, the reason was the North's fixed purpose to limit, restrain, and finally abolish slavery in the states where it exists. The states with great unanimity declared her purpose to resist that principle. So my question is, how does the memorial to the Confederacy, which divided this country in service to the wealthy slave owners, and it would divide this country again, or it did, and fought a civil war, how does that square with the ideals that we have hold dear? It's time that we as white people put ourselves in the shoes of our brothers and sisters who are black and say, what does it feel like to have that memorial on our public square? And I don't think it should be torn down by any means, because it means a lot to people, but it should be moved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flood.
Susan Butterworth.
Here, but I'm going to pass.
Okay.
Barbara Beer.
Okay, it's on. And it's Barbara Byer, just for the record. And I live on 415 Alexander Avenue. $3 million spent on the courthouse square, but the Confederate monument is still there. Not a friendly space to breathe fresh air. Thank you.
Thank you. Lance?
Caroline Avery.
Good evening. I spoke to you for the first time in January of this year about the location of the Confederate Monument and the importance of moving that monument from Burke County's central gathering place. You heard more than 75 people at the March meeting. They were all people from this county who spoke of the divisiveness and the hate that the monument represents to many in this community. Truth be told, you have heard from Burke County citizens at every monthly meeting this year, imploring you to lead this community in honest, loving, respectful dialogue about the monument and about our racial history. Time and again, you've said no. You said no to moving the monument. So we asked you to name an advisory board of diverse opinions to discuss the Confederate monument, and the importance of providing safe places for us to have honest dialogue. Again, you said no to naming that advisory board. That no perplexed many, many of us. You have named an advisory board to study the safety and the care of animals in this county, but you will not name an advisory board to discuss the safety and care for people in this county. How do you think that makes people in this county feel? You name an advisory board to look into the well-being of animals, but you will not name an advisory board to look into something that is deeply hurtful to many of your neighbors here. You have heard from a broad sector of this community, rich and poor, black, brown, white, Republican, Democrat, pastors, blue collar, white collar, teachers, lawyers, doctors, all with the same message. This monument is divisive and hurtful. We've been respectful, we've been thoughtful, we've been prayerful, we've been merciful, and if we've been nothing else, we've been honest. Our framework has been very, very simple. Love. Love for this community, love for this country, and love for all of our neighbors. We have taken many steps. We have a growing number of people who want a fair dialogue. We are asking you once again to care enough to create a structure for this dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Avery.
Susan Butterworth has changed her mind.
Okay, Ms. Butterworth.
Thank you. Is that a good, I can have a loud voice, I don't want to scream. Well, thank you for allowing me to come forward. I didn't really realize that the statue was going to be such a topic tonight. And so I wanted to kind of reserve my opinion until I learned more about some of these things. But I have a strong opinion about those statues. And I want to thank you, every one of you, for not taking it down. Because that's our history. I have Indian in my blood. We could stand here and talk about what happened to the Indians. But why? If we leave that statue is our history. And if we don't learn from our history, which is what we classically do, we never learn from our history, we need to leave it standing so that we have a solid reminder of what we had to go through to get where we are today. So I thank you for not taking it down. We have some strong history here in Burke County, and we can't just fold every time somebody comes up with a new idea. We need to be proud of our history and know that we all lived, our heritage is blood on that street over there for that statue and for our rights. So I don't agree with you guys on everything, but I definitely agree with you on that one.
Thank you, Ms. Butterworth.
Pastor George Logan.
Good evening. George Logan, 101 Inglewood Drive. We've been coming now for several months, and several months ago when we approached, we had 75 people here, and there was a lady that my family and my wife and I have known from the past. And she saw us here, and after the meeting, she came up and she spoke to my wife, and she said, my wife said to her, oh, you're here to support the removal of the statue. And she says, no, I wasn't here to support the removal of the statue. I was here to support and protest it being removed until I heard the comments, until I heard the 75 people or so come up and talk about what it meant to them. And she allowed herself to feel, she allowed herself to be shocked, as it were, about what others were saying and their impression of the Confederate monument. And as the lady just said, it is about history. Unfortunately, history hasn't been told completely. It's been sanitized. And if people really understood history, understood what took place those 200 years of slavery, and understood how demoralizing, how traumatic, how abusive, how families were broken up, how women were raped, there's tremendous shock value there. And if any of you would allow yourselves to go back and truly look at history, you and I and everyone would have a robust response to the removal of that Confederate monument, which represents succession against this nation, the United States of America. So the Union Army was the United States of America. And this force, this Confederate Army, fought against this nation. Why wouldn't someone be appalled? Why wouldn't we keep a monument standing that showed a complete rebellion against this nation of which we call ourselves patriots of? So I want you to take that and just allow yourselves to feel. I realize that there are some things that supposedly handcuffs you, but if you dare to just consider, if it were your people that were enslaved for 200 years, how would you be here? Would you line up 75 strong, or would it be 500 strong? Or 2,000 strong? Or community strong, saying that monument should and must be removed? Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Logan.
Carla Kincaid.
Carla Kincaid, 1276 NC Highway in the great community of Oak Hill. Just a reminder that this is not something new with the statues and the symbols of the Confederacy. Just to remind everybody that 2015 was really the beginning, and of course it's been way before that in the black community. But 2015, the massacre of the 9 African Americans at the historic Mother Bethel, Mother Emanuel in Charleston, South Carolina, was the one actually that sparked a big nationwide movement to remove Confederate monuments, flags, and other symbols from the public square. And I'd like to say, not only the public square in Morganton, Morganton is the county seat of Burke County. And that's where I feel like that's why it represents the people in the town. It represents what kind of mood there is in the town when it comes toward the Civil War and Confederacy. And we all know now that it's not heritage. And if it is heritage, you should be ashamed of it. So I just wanted to clarify that. And that was a great big hurt to us as an AME church to lose our brothers and sisters in the Charleston, South Carolina Mother Emanuel Church in trying to do something during a Bible study and someone to come in. And then to catch all, he was caught right over here in Cleveland County. I think they asked him if he wanted a hamburger, asked him if he needed food or something. And if it had been vice versa, I don't think a black person would have been alive today if that would have happened. And my last statement was in reference to Mr. Maynard Taylor. I understand that you had picked up the paper on the new study that they had, that Smart Access, and you was kind of surprised at the fact that New Morganton probably wasn't on the list of the top places to retire in North Carolina. It was Hendersonville, number 1, Hickory, number 2, 3, Marion, 4, Brevard, 5, Roxborough, 6, Pinehurst, 7, Williamston, 8, Forest City, 9, Reedsville, and 10, Black Mountain. Now, they used the criteria of taxes, and there was a few other criteria, but being in an executive in an office once before, when we came down to an application and hiring someone or giving someone a scholarship, we had to play a game of elimination. And if they met all those requirements, but, there were some other things about that area that was just not right, it was eliminated. So you play a game of elimination after you pick for scholarships for the kids or whether it's an employee and they have the same. I think they might have done the same thing. I would think that we may have made that, but there's a lot of negativity, especially through the Confederacy. And so that shines a light when it comes to selecting Morganton and Burke County for things such as this. And I just think that, just to have that happen, and I already shared with you about the national news in Burke County with that flag on the interstate. That's what welcomes you in Burke County, and that's what welcomes you out of Burke County. So I would ask that you would remove it, move it somewhere else, just like Maryland did. They moved theirs to Richmond. Find a place for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kincaid.
That's all the signups I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Lance. Thank you very much for your public comments tonight. I'll close the public comment period, and we'll move on to Section 9 consent agenda tonight. Mr. Manager, I'll recognize you to highlight our consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You have 15 items on your consent agenda. Number 1, Burke County Public Schools approval to purchase of real property. Number 2, Burke County Public Schools presentation of financial data for the period ending September 30th, 2021. Item 3, Clerk, Council on Aging appointments and removal. Item 4, Clerk, appointments, removal of the Board of Health. Item 5, Clerk, appointments to EMS Peer Review Committee. Item 6, Clerk, appointment to Planning Board. Item 7, County Manager, resolution regarding lease of property, the Avery Building. Item 8, Community Development, accept Friends of the Fonta Flora State Trail Volunteer MOU. Item 9, Burke County Emergency Communications Center Viper Radio Memorandum of Understanding. Item 10, Finance, approval of purchasing policy. Item 11, Tax Department Tax Collection Report for October 2021. Item 12, Tax Department Release Refund Report for October 2021. Item 13, Tax Department Late Applications for 2021 Veterans Exclusion. Item 14, TDA Approval of Bylaws. And item 15, Western Piedmont Community College Presentation of Financial Data for the period ending September 30th, 2021. That concludes your consent agenda.
All right, thank you, Brian. Gentlemen, you've heard the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Scott. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. Those opposed? Mr. Taylor, you going to vote on that?
Oh, excuse me. Yes, I'll vote, but I won't, I'd like consideration on the item I brought up before.
All right. So is that a vote for or against the consent?
For.
Okay, 5-0. Thank you very much. All right, this brings us to item number 10, items for decision. We have a couple tonight. This first item comes from the clerk on the removal of animal advisory board members and appointments. I'll hear from Lance Riddle tonight in the place of Madam Clerk. Thank you, Lance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good to be with you all. Seats 1, 3, and 7 on the Animal Advisory Board require some attention. Gwen Stevens currently occupies seat number 1 for a rescue or foster agency. However, due to her recent appointment to the Board of Health and their desire for her to represent the Board of Health on the Animal Advisory Board in seat number 3, moving her is necessary. We have received an application from Gwen Hood with a Better Life Animal Rescue to fill the vacancy left by Ms. Stevens, and the term ends July 31st, 2022. Seat number 3 was occupied by Amy Burnett with Environmental Health until her recent resignation. Gwen Stevens, a Board of Health member, is slated to fill this seat, and the term expires July 31st, 2022. And finally, seat number 7 was occupied by Gary McClure until his recent resignation. You have several applications on file for this seat, which also has an unexpired term ending July 31st, 2022. The applications for seat number 7 are Felicia Cobb, Denise Smith, Angie Waldeck, and Nancy Woollever. And I would like to note everyone but Ms. Waldeck has turned in their rabies certificate.
Okay, thank you, Lance. Gentlemen, I'll ask that we act on items 1 and 2 first together, since there's no voting to be done on individuals there. I'll entertain a motion on items 1 and 2.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Wayne. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. That's 5-0. On item number 3, seat number 7, we have several candidates. We do need to decide whether we will allow Ms. Waldeck to be considered, since we do not have her rabies certificate. And I'll remind you that that's one of the things that we ask folks to when they're being appointed to a seat involving this particular seat is it a pet owner?
Yes, sir, that's your at-large animal owner seat. And that rabies certificate is essentially just to show that they do indeed own a dog or cat.
Right, so we did not get a certificate from Ms. Waldeck, so first we need to, are we okay with, some of you may know whether or not she has an animal, I don't know, but are we okay with leaving her in the mix?
Repeat that question.
Ms. Waldeck did not provide us with a certificate of ownership of an animal or rabies or anything. That this seat is an at-large pet owner, and one of the things that we typically ask for is some evidence that the person is a pet owner, and that one of the things we usually get is a rabies certificate. We did not get that from her.
Mr. Chairman, I would probably, in my viewpoint, since that's a requirement we generally want, I would say that we leave her off the nomination list.
Yes, if she doesn't meet requirements, she should not be considered.
Is everybody in agreement with that? Okay, I think I see consensus there. So we'll not consider Ms. Waldeck. And so with that, gentlemen, we have 3 applicants: Felicia Cobb, Denise Smith, and Nancy Woolever. I will open floors for nomination for this seat.
Mr. Chairman, looking at the applications, all of them are excellent applicants. I think we would be happy with either one of them, so we'll take potluck and take the middle one. I make the motion, we put Denise Smith in that position.
All right, we have a nomination for Denise Smith. Any other nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Nancy Woolever.
All right. Have a nomination for Nancy Woolever. Any other nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Felicia Cobb.
Okay, we have a nomination for Felicia Cobb, so we have a nomination for everybody. All right, with that, I'll begin the the voting with the first nominee, Ms. Smith. All those in favor of selecting Ms. Smith for seat number 7, please signify by the uplifted hand. That's 2. All those in favor for Nancy Woolever, signify by the uplifted hand. There's 2. And then for Ms. Cobb, that is 1. All right, with that vote, that will take Ms. Cobb out of the vote, and we will vote again, please. Those in favor of Denise Smith, please signify by the uplifted hand. That'd be 2. Those in favor of Ms. Woolever, signify by the uplifted hand. That'll be 3. Okay. All right, well, we'll congratulate Ms. Woolever for that seat. Thank you very much, Lance. Brings us to item number 2 of decisions. This comes from Finance, request for ARP Senior Fiscal Analyst position. And Ms. Pierce will tell us about that. Evening, Margaret.
Good evening. This is a request to add to our pay plan and fund a position through the American Rescue Plan funds to assist us with the reporting, tracking, and management of the projects. This would manage our ARP funding with effective investments and collaboration in support of the county and community priorities and goals, ensuring this one-time funding positively impacts our county for years to come. I'll entertain any questions you might have.
All right. Thank you, Margaret. Gentlemen, you've seen this information. Any questions for Margaret on this item?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Margaret, is there any research out there? How many counties, neighboring counties, that are in the situation that we're in and they're going to hire one of these specialists?
Everyone that I've spoken to. I was actually at a conference last week. It was our first face-to-face finance conference since before COVID began. And it's very much happening. All the cities of any size and counties feel strongly that they need the assistance that can be provided by such a position. We actually Rhonda and I worked with multiple job descriptions that we'd already seen come out in order to come up with what ours should look like and be.
Other questions?
And those, excuse me. You said almost everyone. Anyone not doing it that you're aware of?
No, sir. Those that have not already put it out are working the same as us to get a job description together and work with their board to get something established. I've got several job descriptions here that I can list off places if that would help.
Several documents, what?
Listing persons, entities, counties, and cities that have put out the positions already.
Well, in our discussion at pre-agenda, we needed a specialist in this field. Well, because this is new funds, obviously nobody has had time to be trained in this field. So where are we going to get that specialist assistant or finance person
They would need to be a specialist in grants themselves and be knowledgeable about working with government, particularly federal programs, is what we would be looking for. You're right, there's no one who's a specialist in American Rescue Plan funds, but hopefully we can find someone who is familiar with working with federal programs and funding of this nature that could go ahead and get on board and start studying the massive requirements of these funding sources.
And we did agree that this was not a one-year job, it's at least a 4-year term.
It would be, as long as it's needed, it's limited to this funding. So if we had projects established and managed in 3 years, then we would release the position then. It would totally be tied to our positions, our projects, excuse me. So if our projects go along faster, then the position would end sooner. It's very much tied to what we do, what determinations made to fund projects and different projects.
I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Margaret on this item? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the addition of a senior fiscal analyst position to the county pay plan and approve it to be funded by the ARP funds as a time-limited position tied to the ARP funding effective November the 7th, 2021.
Thank you, Commissioner Carswell. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand.
With reservation.
It's 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
This brings us to item 11, reports and comments. Tonight, gentlemen, we'll start, shake it up just a little bit. Start with Commissioner Carswell.
No comment, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Carswell and I are both on the executive board for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. We, for those of you who don't know, I represent Burke, Caldwell, Alexander, and Catawba, and Mr. Commissioner Carswell is second vice president for the whole state. So we're lucky, first vice president for the whole state, I'm sorry. And so we're lucky to have two representatives from a small county like ourselves represented at the 100 county level. We did attend, well, he's attended a lot more meetings than this, but we did attend the last Board of Directors meeting Friday and Saturday, October 22nd and 23rd via Zoom. So some good information, but the rest of my reports have been submitted. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Let me take this opportunity to thank both of you fellas for working on our association's board. I know it's a lot of extra work, and certainly appreciate the time and efforts that you will spend on that. Commissioner Taylor, comments?
Mr. Chairman, at the beginning of the meeting, it'd been nice to have been notified, but kind of surprised to know that our clerk is not here. Is there an explanation?
Yes, sir. She is at a clerk's conference. I was thinking she notified us at the pre-agenda, if I'm not mistaken, that she would be gone to the clerk's conference this week. So that's why Lance is filling in for her.
And that's being held where?
Help me out.
She's in Chapel Hill right now, Commissioner Taylor.
Chapel Hill.
That's too bad. Okay.
Thank you.
We sure got a lot to be thankful for compared to what went on last year and whatever. I think there's been a turnaround somewhat, and we got a lot to be thankful this year.
Thank you. I think we certainly all concur with that. Thank you very much. Mr. Manager.
No, sir. Thank you.
Lance.
Nothing for me, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. JR.
Gentlemen, since the last meeting of commissioners on October 19th, 2021, we have filed a motion in the cause for contempt in the Cook Junkyard lawsuit to enforce compliance with a court order. We have obtained a show cause order in civil contempt by the court, and we have a hearing to show cause scheduled in Superior Court on December 14th. We have had our summary ejectment hearing against those persons living on the Johnny Williams property on Highway 70 in Conley Springs. We obtained an eviction order, and they have moved off the property. I've reviewed 3 contracts with ESC Environmental for testing concerning the proposed EMS station property and proposed animal shelter property. I have completed the title work on the property at 1438 Bethel Road and supplied the title information to ESC for their Phase 1 environmental audit. We're preparing to file a second nuisance abatement lawsuit with the Sheriff's Office to shut down a alleged drug venue. I have completed and submitted my attorney's response to auditor's request for the 2021 budget audit. I've assisted the Director of General Services with a contract termination matter, prepared a deed of trust for Unix Packaging's LLC, known as AC Morganton LLC, to secure the $500,000 state reuse grant that was granted to them. We should receive that back any time. I've worked with Animal Services on a search and seizure issue and reviewed a proposed renewal agreement with the state of North Carolina for probation and parole officers' offices and one for juvenile services. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Counselor. Madam Deputy Manager.
No comments.
No comment. Thank you very much. All right. I'll just have a few comments tonight. I'll remind you that our county offices will be closed next week, November the 25th and 26th, in observance of the Thanksgiving holiday. And as Commissioner Abele already mentioned, we certainly hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving. Careful in your travels as you move about. Please, as I always remind you, don't litter. We have lots of trash blowing around in Burke County. Please pick some of that up and be careful to cover your trash. Spay and neuter your pets. Consider adopting a pet from our Animal Services Center. Also, let me remind you that our pre-agenda meeting for December will change just a bit because of the Morganton Christmas Parade on December the 7th, the time when we would normally be meeting, and we usually like to participate in the parade. We're moving our pre-agenda meeting to Monday, December the 6th, at the same time, 3 p.m. So please make a note of that our pre-agenda meeting will be Monday, December the 6th. And we'll be participating in the Morganton Parade on December the 7th. All right, this brings us to item number 12, vacancy announcements, and I'll recognize Lance Riddle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We have the following opportunities for citizens to get involved in a board or committee. The Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committees, the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, the City of Morganton Board of Adjustment and the Planning Board for the ETJ, Burke Senior Center Advisory Council, the Recreation Commission, Child Protection and Child Fatality Prevention Team, East Burke Senior Center Advisory Board, the Burke County Board of Adjustment, the Council on Aging, the Board of Health, and then finally, Partners Consumer and Family Advisory Committee for a Traumatic Brain Injury. Thank you, sir.
Again, thank you, Lance. All right. Mr. Manager, do we need closed session tonight?
Yes, sir, just a short, very short one.
All right, gentlemen, with that, we'll come to item 13, a closed session. I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session as authorized by NCGS 143.318.11A3, 4, 5, and 6.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. That's 5-0, and we'll take just a couple minutes, and then we'll go into closed session. Thank you very much. All right, gentlemen, with the proper motion to come out of closed session, we'll return to open session and entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I move to authorize the county manager to execute documents to opt into the National Opioid Settlement on behalf of the Burke County Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. It's 5-0, Lance. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you very much.